Good morning, everybody. Thanks for making it so early in Los Angeles post-rain. I'm so impressed with you all. Thrilled today to be talking about the melding of creative and media. I work at OUTFRONT Media, where one of our favorite taglines is 100% of boring ads don't matter. So this one should be a really good time, near and dear to what I get to do daily. And I have incredible award-winning marketers up here with me. I'm gonna let everybody do a quick little intro of themselves, but we have Rich Guest from IMAX, and we have Marisstella Marinkovic from Kia, and Zoe Zeigler from Square. So if you guys each wanna just give a quick little intro and background,
Sure.
We'll dive in after that.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rich Guest. I lead brand and digital marketing at IMAX. I've been there about 7 months now, and before that, I led marketing communications in North America at Burger King, and before that, I did 20 years in the agency world. So very excited to talk about media and creativity.
Fantastic.
Hi, I'm Marisstella Marinkovic, and I am the director at Kia of marketing and operations. And what does that mean? I do all the things, all the marketing things, if you want to know. Before I came to Kia, I spent 20 years working on the agency side at Saatchi and Pitch and Inocean. So excited to be here today and talk to y'all.
Good morning, everyone. I am Zoe Zeigler. I am the VP of Integrated Marketing at Square. And what that means is really thinking about how we strategically make sure that paid, owned, and earned media are working collaboratively to help us, what I like to say, punch above our weight. So I've had the privilege of doing this for about 6 months now. But prior to that, I've hopped around to a couple different industries. I've been in beauty just prior to this. I was at Chase for about 4 years, leading the Sapphire advertising business. I worked in automotive for 10 years, and also spent a little bit of time at Google. So glad to be here.
Fantastic. So I think we have, an extra interesting perspective up here as all of you sit as, senior client leads, but have a lot of agency background as well. So I think this should make a very interesting conversation on all of the things that we're going to talk about. But really, I just want to keep it broad to kick it off and ask, what does the melding of, creative and media mean to each of you individually? Yeah. And Rich, if you want to, or go ahead. No, Zoe, please start.
To me, the melding of creative and media starts with the people. I've had the opportunity now in the pandemic to have 2 new roles, and really realizing that you have to operationalize your team to really think about how to best bring the 2 teams together. And not even the 2 teams, like what's the full gamut of the marketing teams you need to bring together to really recognize the power of integrated marketing, which I believe is the melding of media and creative. So coming into my role at Square, and even in my last role at Beauty Counter, really, spent my first 30 days thinking, just listening to people and hearing about how everyone had like these really, everyone was really passionate about integrated marketing and optimizing our creative output, but we didn't have the structures in place to necessarily do so. So thinking about like, what are the right briefing practices? How do you bring everyone in under one strategic vision and at the very beginning versus having creative briefed in over here with one brief and media briefed in over here with another brief and social briefed in with another brief, like bringing all the teams together really at the onset, kicking off all the people on the team with one strategic vision and really letting that lead us. And then having what I like to call a quarterback, which is what my team serves as, to help connect the dots as we're continuing to ideate and think about how we really come up with the best ideas, because there still is a necessity, especially in this COVID world where we're all working in different places, to ensure that the right people are talking to the right folks at the right time throughout the process to make sure we're coming to life in the most, integrated and impactful ways.
As you were talking about that, I was thinking about our process. So for us, it's really about art and science. So how do you put those 2 things together? Well, we call it at Kia the K-team process. And K-team or K-pop, we wanted to name ourselves K-pop, but they were like, no, somebody already has that. So the K-team is a way that we all work together, and we have multiple agencies. So how do you bring the media world and the creative world together, and how do you really connect with a customer? Well, you do that through obviously the people, but you have to have some boundaries of how you work together. And it's really important to understand what the expectations are and how you all work together. So for us, it's the people, it's the process, and it's also, while I'm not the quarterback because I don't think I could throw a ball, but we think of ourselves as, and this is a terrible analogy, I guess, the general. So you have to make a game plan, you have to understand where you're going, and you have to have buy-in from the team because they have to buy in that we're going over here. So for us, it's all about the people and the process and bringing those things together.
I think people, process are all super critical. I'll just click up one level, which say from an objective perspective, if you aren't taking context into consideration when you're planning media or when you're developing creative, you're absolutely missing the boat today. And I think we have to think about the way we typically as an industry plan Super Bowl creative and how we bring media and creative and PR together to drive really amazing breakthrough programs and replicate that in as many different situations as possible. Only doing it once a year or twice a year if you're in Britain and Christmas ads are coming out isn't doing ourselves a favor as an industry.
And you gave me the perfect layup to our next discussion around the idea of where does, creative tech come in to the media mix. So, as campaigns are launching, whether it's out of home, whether it's digital, whether it's experiential, if it's, any sort of element of the media mix, it all feels kind of one and the same and very large at scale. So, what comes first, sort of the chicken or the egg in this case, like the creative tech or the media mix? Where does it begin for you?
For us, it's neither. For me, it's neither. It's about the idea. So it's really about what is the idea and how we can bring that idea to life. And what technology can we use? Are we going to use AR? Are we going to use an NFT? Are we going to use Web3? Are we going to use out of home? Is it going to be experiential? So it's really about the core of the idea and then how to connect that idea and express that idea, and also keeping in mind the target and their media behaviors as well.
I could not agree more. The idea is always first, and then finding ways to execute that idea in a way that's truly authentic to the brand and to the audience is critical. I will say there are unique opportunities that pop up from time to time. So we just bought space on a giant digital board in Las Vegas that will hold for several months, and we started in that case with the media and the technology, and we knew it was two sides of the Zouk nightclub in Las Vegas, and we knew that's a very special mindset as people are walking up and down the strip. And so the creative idea started with that media and technology in mind. We need a great interactive digital out-of-home experience that's on the side of a nightclub in Las Vegas. And
Right.
we're a movie business.
Can we get tickets to that nightclub? Because that would be
I
really
cannot even
cool.
get tickets to the nightclub. I can
Probably
get tickets
not.
to movies. Right. So then the message from our creative agency became very simple, which was there's only one reason to see a movie in Las Vegas, and that's IMAX. Otherwise, probably don't go see a movie when you're in Las Vegas.
And then do you want to talk a little bit about like the tech and the Broadway piece?
Oh, gosh. Once upon a time, when I worked in agencies, my team and I supported Mars, who's I guess going to be here later today. I saw on the screen. And we worked with Skittles on their Super Bowl advertising. And one year we decided the best way for Skittles to break through during the Super Bowl was to make a Broadway musical. And so that became a one-day only Broadway musical that we actually sold tickets to because it was all about authenticity. And in that case, there wasn't much technology around the execution of the idea, but we focused on how do you make it an authentic Broadway experience. Everything from selling tickets for $200 to having playbills to having cast albums of all the music from the musical to getting the New York Times theater critic there to review the performance.
Yeah, for us, it was more, I would give an example of Times Square, right? Hide the pandemic, no one leaves their house, no one knows what to do with themselves, everyone's wearing their jammies, and, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier, is out of home relevant? We owned Times Square and we had an experience for those people. The few people that were there, we actually brought the first responders that were there. These people are so dedicated because once you get to Times Square, you can't go to the bathroom for like 12 hours. You get to your little pod and you are not allowed to leave. So back in the height of the pandemic days, but we were so excited to bring the experience and we brought that to everyone's home because no one was leaving. So we had that out of home experience and we owned all of Times Square. So for us, it was really about looking for those moments where we can connect with people and we're able to connect on all different fronts.
Yeah, and I like what you said about the idea being like the jumping off point, because there's so many times in my career where I haven't even known what technology could even solve a problem. It just comes to us as we are trying to figure out how to problem solve, essentially. So I'll give the example. During my time at the beauty company that I was at prior to Square, during the pandemic, or prior to when we knew there was going to be a pandemic, we planned to open our flagship store in Venice on Abbot Kinney. It was an immersive shopping experience. And then a couple of weeks, before we were supposed to launch this store, we found out that COVID was hitting. So you can imagine that completely shifted our plans from a retail perspective. But instead of just saying, okay, we'll just sit on this and not do anything with it, we were like, really, how can we use technology and how can we use this cultural moment, I'll call it, to think about how we evolve our approach. And so we turned it into a live shopping experience where we were able to, at the time, live shopping was just popping off, I'll say. And so we were able to, have API in our platform to allow us to reach a larger audience than we ever could with live shopping experiences multiple times a week. That ended up being very, very successful for us. But over the course of the pandemic even, the technology behind live shopping and the user experience around live shopping shifted from people going to platforms to people now going, platforms like meaning individual platforms like a brand site or something like that, to actually folks going to like Amazon and Facebook and these aggregators of audiences, I guess you can say, to do their live shopping. So we realized that if we wanted to be successful in that space, we really had to shift our thinking about how we leverage the technology to, carry forth this creative idea. We ultimately decided to sunset it to focus on some other business priorities, but it's just a matter of I think in the world that we are today, things are changing so frequently, and what the technology that worked yesterday might not be the technology that works tomorrow. And so we really have to, be willing to be flexible.
100%. And that actually really leads into our next topic, which is, breaking through and how do you do that in this attention economy? It's a big kind of ongoing topic of conversation, especially as you're trying to reach new audiences, elusive Gen Z or, a savvier millennial. And, where is the intersection in figuring out how you're going to, solve for that challenge of really breaking through so that you can ignite, the social narrative and conversation, but at the same time hit on the KPIs of the media mix that you have set as it relates to that objective?
I think about this all the time.
It's like, I hope that big pause is because you want to go first.
It's really hard because it's really easy to miss. And I think everyone aspires to break through and be part of the cultural zeitgeist and have Good Morning America talk about your advertising, but it doesn't happen all the time. And I think one of the things that I learned working for Fernando Machado at Burger King was embracing the fact that there is a fairly high failure rate. And if there's a fairly high failure rate, you can't invest all of your marketing budget in one thing that might break through. And one of the things we did at Burger King and we're now trying to do at IMAX is invest in a portfolio of smaller ideas that we all believe have a potential to break through, but never putting our full budget into any one idea and really trying to divide the budget between 5 to increase the chances of having that home run event and treating it more like baseball batting averages than we might otherwise.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I had this meeting with some folks a couple weeks ago, and we talked about this intersection between culture, media, and creative. And if you can get that right, and Fernando did a great job of doing that right, if you can do that right, it's a home run. So I've been thinking about how do we infuse that into our briefs and how do we have that moment after we brief our teams. And again, culture shifts so quickly. So it's not like you can project what's going to happen on Super Bowl, what's going to happen next year. It's those moments. So where's the right time to infuse culture to help the creatives and the media team connect with that? And I'll give you an example of another brand. I can't really mention their name, because now they're a competitor. But it was Super Bowl, and we were in this war room, and we were watching the game, and the electricity went out, and Cheerios did a whole thing. And then we went downstairs and shot on a car with Cheerios that we happened to have at the agency. Thank you. And we shot that and we put that on, and it was phenomenal. So there are sometimes moments that happen instantaneously, like World Cup is coming. And those are the moments that you can engage with customers immediately. And then there's the other things that you're looking for, like how do you engage in those cultural moments? So I think it's a little bit of that instantaneous and be able to be nimble and flexible, so you don't have to have like 7 layers of approval. Just get that thing out there. And then there are things that you need to think about, which is like, okay, we're working on this big thing. We're going to be launching this amazing EV next year. What's happening around this time? But as we get closer, let's look at culture and see how we can infuse some of that. So that's really our sort of 2-pronged strategy, is in the moment and then looking to see how we can infuse that in the creative and media.
Yeah, and I think on my end, over the different roles I've had at different companies, what I realized is sometimes to tap into culture, you have to give up creative control. And so, we think about our agency and our internal creative partners that usually help us come up with these big ideas. But it's not, some of the biggest ideas and some of the most successful programs I've ran has been collaborating with influencers, or what I like to call creators, in the broadest sense of it, to help us come to bear with like what could be really compelling and culturally relevant in this time. I'll give the example. When I was at Chase, also during the pandemic, we brought in a group of celebrity, what we call creators, not just to be in our ads and have cameos in our ads, but to also create experiences for our card members. We had Mark Ronson, who was our music supervisor, and he was helping advise on how to like create the right sound. And then we had a whole, instead of him just coming and advising on the sound, he did a whole pop-up at Sundance with us, where he brought in some new artists and really allowed us to like really kind of get immersed in what was happening on the cultural scene with music and money as it collides. But also we had Gabrielle Union on our creator board as well, I'll say. And during that time, it was, we hired her as talking about travel and experiences along with her family. But what felt really right in that moment was at the very beginning of the pandemic as well, around when George Floyd, and those moments were taking a lot of brain space from all of us. And so we pivoted along with her help in saying, instead of doing what we thought we would do, which was a normal event, she really thought, like, let's serve our card members with creating an experience around mindfulness and meditation around this time where there's so much going on in the world, and using that as a way in to connect very authentically with what's going on culturally, what's going on with our customers, and how do we bring that back to our company as well. So giving away creative control sometimes and allowing others to come in and help you figure out what the right path forward in that moment. It also speaks to the necessity of having very diverse teams and being able to tap into points of view that might not be the same as the CEO or the CMO, or even myself as the lead of the integrated marketing team, how necessary that is to really participate in culture in really amazing ways with your creative.
So let's go one step deeper, because I think, how to capture the cultural zeitgeist is, an ongoing question that's on the minds of, everybody, be it if you're on the sales side, if you're on the marketing side, if you're on the agency side. So in order to catch these moments, what mechanisms are, you using at the brand side, or your agencies using? How do you come together to make sure that you, have that right fit, find those insights that, help you uncover the stories so that you can, really catch that wind and deliver on that KPI?
I call my kids, and I'm not even joking about that. I'm fully serious. That's one of the mechanisms, because my kids are, one's in college and one's in his 20s, and they know a lot of things that I don't know. So that's one of my go-tos, because I want to be informed of the latest things. They told me about NFTs, and I was like, I don't even know what this is. And so my son tried to explain it to us, and then told us how we should buy all this $10,000 art. And we're like, no, don't buy it. You don't have $10,000. We're not buying this art. But in all seriousness, besides the children aspect, it's everyone's responsibility. So it can't just be our agency's responsibility, all our agency's responsibilities. It's our responsibilities too as marketers to really understand like what's going on. And it's fun. It's like fun to just like learn new things and figure out. And I always feeling connected and feeling like you understand like what people are thinking and what they're doing. So for us, it's everyone's responsibility to help connect and help the brand grow in those areas.
Fantastic.
Zoe already talked about diverse teams, which I think is critically important. But one of the things that we focus on is within those diverse teams, ensuring that everyone is a fan of something. So you could be a fan of Frasier, or you could be a fan of food and cooking, but I want people who are passionate about something and bring the insights from that thing they're passionate about into the team every day, because you never know where these pop culture moments spring up from, and having people who just love something so deeply that they're embedded in it and want to talk about it, I think helps keep us on the pulse of what's coming next.
Yeah. And I would say as a leader, one thing I think about is how do I create space for my team to tap into culture? Because we're all so busy. We're all working in these remote environments, or sometimes, hybrid environments, but we have, Zoom or Google Meets calls all day, back-to-back meetings. We have all these deliverables that we're supposed to be moving forward every single day. But to really tap into creativity and culture, you have to remove yourself from that.
Right.
And so how do you give your team space and permission and get permission from the leaders above you? Like every day is not going to be like me at my computer. There's going to be a day where just walking down, walking through Hollywood or taking, a stroll in West Hollywood, it's going to help rev up those creative juices and connect with something that could bring something back that's much bigger. And then also, how do we just kind of stay in the pulse of what's going on in categories outside of ours? I've worked in so many different categories across my career. And one thing that I love is that I'm able to pull case studies and things from different verticals to apply to where I am now. So just not just looking at our competitive set for inspiration, I'll say, but looking at the broader marketing landscape for inspiration.
Yeah, and I love what you shared yesterday when we were having a little pre-chat, just about even surprising places for surprising brands, and sometimes what old is new, again, works just from a completely different narrative or lens. So I have one last question, and then we can open it up to questions from all of you guys in the audience. But as we are looking to the future, what excites each of you as it relates to interactive and immersive creative tech and experiences to, deliver on your media needs, and where are you all going with, Web3, NFTs, kind of all the fun buzzwords of today. On our end at OUTFRONT, digital out of home with responsive ads is the new order of the week. So, we know it's all moving fast and evolving at all times, but, tell us what's keeping you excited and up at night about tomorrow.
Yeah, I think some interesting things for myself are just like with so many media platforms out there these days, where you're competing for attention every single day with your customers. It's not just against other brands. It's like, what platform are they going to be spending their time on? And so I'm actually very excited about about how some of the more what we call traditional platforms are re-envisioning themselves in this time to really cut through. I'll use out of home as one of them. I saw this really interesting WhatsApp 3D out of home spot that felt like the brand was coming to you, and all you could do was stand there and look up. And how do we create those types of experiences from the places like whether it's television or whether it's out of home every single day that really can help our brand break through in bigger and better ways that are not just your phone, but there is the reality that the phones are, the phones and technology are what people have in their pockets every day and what they're leveraging. NFTs and metaverse, that's all exciting, but I'm actually very interested in AI and how technology connects with the spaces and places that people are in every day to help brands and creative ideas come to life. That doesn't just have to be putting on glasses and taking yourself out of the real world, but you can have these more immersive creative experiences in the real world using technology.
Yeah, and for us, it's really about, for me especially, it's really about Web3 and NFTs, QR codes, 3D out-of-home, all the areas that we're experimenting in and trying new things. And for me, it's really about, why are we trying these things? Well, we're trying these things because we're in the EV business. And we're all going to be in the EV business. And how do you get those early adopters to continue and see your brand as a brand that you can actually have a conversation with, connect to? And one of the ways in was NFT. So last Super Bowl, we had this great idea to launch our EV6. And what it was you had this robo dog, and the robo dog falls in love not with the handsome driver, but with our awesome, amazing EV6. And the robo dog follows the EV6 and leaps from buildings and runs all around. And oh no,
A love story.
his battery dies and he falls to his death, but not to worry, the EV6 revives him and everything is good with the world. So we had this amazing dog, and it's not a hamster, it was a dog. So amazing dog. And what do we do with this dog? And we had the campaign, and we're like, oh my God, we need to do an NFT. And we're like, oh my God, but who can do it with us? We need to find someone, like, who's in the NFT space. So our partner Sweet was brought to us by our team at Enotion, and we were so excited because we had some experts in the space, and we did these dogs, and one of the dogs, I told my son, don't buy it. It sold for $5,000. Someone paid $5,000 for a unique NFT, and some of them are like selling for like so much money. I can't, like, blows my mind every time I look at the resale value. But we knew we had an interesting prop or part of the commercial that people loved, like dogs, babies, celebrities, the whole Super Bowl thing. And it was really something, and the dealers loved it so much. The bobbleheads are literally on their way now, so everyone will get a bobblehead. But that was one of the things that we wanted to do, was really get into the NFT space. Now that we're in the NFT space, we did this really interesting thing with Soul. Soul's a little quirky car. It is awesome. So we took NFTs and brought them in the real world. We also used a QR code in the commercial as a little secret nugget. And you were actually able to get the NFT for free. So we're able to do that. Now we're embarking on some more fun NFT-ness with the NBA. So we're super excited about launching that at the end of the month. And then we're experimenting with some 3D coming soon, end of the year. I'm not going to say more about that. Maybe watch New Year's Eve. So we're excited about all the. You have so many tools in the toolbox now to use. So I'm excited about all of them.
After that, my answer is relatively boring.
No chance.
I'm excited about Disney Plus and Netflix and other streamers adding advertising tiers and the targeting capabilities that will now come to scale for us as advertisers in a video space.
Fantastic. Questions? I'm not sure how we are on time, but go ahead.
Hi, first of all, thank you for your perspective. So fascinating. I loved thinking of what comes first, the chicken or the egg. I'm with Nike. My name is Peter. And, Nike comes from a very traditional, thank you, really premium, creative spots that, give you goosebumps, work great in a 60-second TV ad. But we know the media landscape has changed and platforms are in control, and creative rules are very different on TikTok as they have been before. And I think it's quite a challenge for us to find an authentic voice within the new platforms, and it's a constant pull between the media team and the creative team. What really comes first? Is it the artwork, or is it the canvas and the platforms that are in control? So I wonder, how do you find that balance, and how do you guide your teams in staying authentic, but then also evolving to the creative world that the platforms really rule?
For me, neither comes first. And I think we've all said that in some way, shape, or form. They have to come together. And when I look back over the past year, the work that EOS did with its agency Mischief around their shaving product on TikTok is a great example of that. That started with a real TikToker talking about the product, and it had a brand response that was very true to EOS's voice, but native to TikTok. And so those two things came together in a seamless way. And I love that. And that's the type of work that we aspire to do at IMAX.
Yeah, I think the challenge is really understanding the platform. So whoever that group of people that really understand the platform can really help guide you, and spending time on the platform and talking to others that are on the platform, because I'll go on the platform and look at the stupidest things. And then my kid will be like, oh my God, there's this challenge about doors or squares or something. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. So I think it's really about counting on the experts to help you. And sometimes you have to have the media agency and the creative agency get in a room without you and figure it out and come back with a point of view, because I'm sure them working together, it's just going to make amazing work.
Yeah. And this is also why I say briefing in at the vision level is so important. Most of us probably are used to briefing in at I want a TV spot, and let's, that being the crux, or I want a campaign. But what is the strategic vision? What are we trying to do? And then I sometimes leave the holes of what channels are we activating on? I leave that. I'm I'm not going to figure that. That's for me to let you guys know what the vision is, what the strategy is, what the insights are, what cultural commentary we're hearing about this, and then find the right ways in. And I think if we start with vision, strategic vision, that helps us find the right ways to plug in. Because sometimes it may be a TV spot, but sometimes there's entire campaigns that can start offline or in channels that are not traditional above the line places. And we want to give the creative teams and the media teams the room to think about that without pigeonholing them. So I think that's another way that I think about it.
I just have one other build. When we talk about platforms, and if we get really expansive about what a platform is, Nike has always been a great platform marketer. And you look at the platform of skateboarding, the platform of football, or the platform of basketball. You've understood those platforms and how to activate against them. And I think now it's taking that next step to how does skate culture interact with TikTok in a way that's uniquely Nike?
Exactly. And just to add, because I did a similar panel last week, and some of the insights from that also were to really invest deeply. So if, for skating and TikTok, make sure you're staffing to that. Put the investment in it so that you have those experts on the team who are really mining and understanding what ignites against, that platform plus that subject matter, so that you can catch that insight or that moment where you have that ability to ignite the conversation.
Hi, everybody. Thank you again so much for being here. I've heard a lot of conversation about TikTok, and transparently, I have my whole team back here from TikTok, and we're the TikTok marketing team. And it's just, I wanted the team to come out here just to hear and see what everybody else is doing in the space, right? As marketers, as advertisers, we want to be inspired by other people too. But us at TikTok, we're always challenged with how do we measure success. And everything that we do here and everything that you're talking about is great. And it's, driving culture, and it's inspired by culture, and it's fun and innovative. So the question is, how do you guys measure success? How do you guys, from a cultural moment in driving NFT for a robot dog, drive success of a sales of a Kia vehicle? Or how do you guys measure that?
Well, NFT it's a long game, right? So it's about early adopters. So we want everyone to know about Kia, and we want to make sure that the early adopters, that we're connecting with them. So sometimes the measure of success is not the impressions, and it's not necessarily the engagements, but it's reaching those people at a deeper level, engaging and having the conversation in their community. When we did the Soul Kia NFT, there were people in the NFT community on our platform saying, oh my God, I have to buy a Kia. That to me is a measure of success.
Yeah, and I think it depends on what kind of company you work for, truly. I've had the privilege of working at very creative-minded companies, and then I've had privilege of working at Square, which is a very tech-minded company, and the CEO thinks metrics and numbers first. And so for almost all of our marketing campaigns, the goal is what we call new profit added. So we have to always think about like what's the bottom line. But that's a hard way to measure brand, and it's a hard way to measure creativity. So what continues to be something that I'm working on with my leadership team is how do I talk about the signals of success that can translate into revenue growth down the line. So whether that's things like organic search volume growing, or traffic to site, or how do we do brand lift studies with the partners that we're working with? How do we have breadcrumbs that showcase that we're having we're bringing customers along on the funnel journey in a really smart way, because also in this business, conversion can take 6 to 9 months for a person to first be exposed to your brand to actually converting when it comes to a technology solution. So it's being very intentional about how do you educate your leadership about what are the things that they should be thinking about that will help you get to that lower funnel goal, but might not be the success indicators today.
All right, I'm relatively lucky compared to everyone else. IMAX is a B2B2C company, and by that I mean our company is monetized through B2B relationships, but those B2B relationships get scale and value because consumers demand the product. So as a brand marketing team, we want more end moviegoers and entertainment lovers to believe that the best way to experience the content they love is in IMAX. And when that happens, we can get content creators like Michael B. Jordan to make a special version of Creed 3 just for IMAX. Or we can get Marvel to release all their movies with exclusive IMAX versions. And that gives us power in our B2B marketplace. So what we're measuring is, do fans and consumers believe IMAX is the best format to see the content they love?
Yes.
Take one more question.
Hey, good morning. Thank you guys for your insights. Just attribution it makes for very interesting conversations internally. People fighting for the credit. Who's going to take that credit so I could get more budget, right? It's always interesting. I'm Giovanni with AT&T, and I wanted to ask you guys, just like a surfer that has to make a split-second decision on whether to catch a wave or ignore it, I feel like marketers do the exact same thing over and over and over again. I'm wondering, what are the parameters that you're using to judge whether to catch the wave or not? And I don't want you to say money, because I know that's the easier one, right? Budget is always the constraint, right? Imagine if you had a limited budget, what would be the parameters that make you want to, okay, we need to jump on this or we need to ignore it?
Real quick, would you say your name and who you're with?
Oh, yeah, sure. Giovanni with AT&T.
That is a very good question. It is really difficult in some organizations to make really quick decisions about things. It just is. There is a lot of stakeholders. We have the dealers, we have the CEO, we have headquarters, we have all these people that we need to make decisions. So for us, it's really about having a solid plan going into the following year. And as things happen, we pivot. And if they're low-hanging fruit, we're like, okay, like the NFT idea, that came up literally as we're developing the concept, and we presented to the executive team, and I was like, we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this. And they did it, and it was great. And that we made a decision in 5 days to do that. So in our world, it's not as in my world especially, it's not as easy to just get the wave or not get the wave. I have to plan ahead and say oh, on Thanksgiving Day, looks like the waves are going to be big, so maybe we should do that. So we're always planning ahead, and then we do have that flexibility if we see something or want to jump on something to pivot. And we do adjust budgets along the way. So if we want to take a little from here to put it over there, or there's a great opportunity that comes up and we can't pass it by, but it always ladders up to our game plan. What are we trying to achieve? We're trying to, do these 5 things are our goals. We have our marketing priorities. Does it fit in that marketing priority? Can I justify doing that? I mean, I would love to do a collaboration with Gucci Is that ever going to happen with Kia? No, it'll never happen. My dreams have died. My dreams are just dead. Can I do anything with Converse? No, I can't do that either. So sometimes I have to put my dreams aside and just, buy myself those really great Gucci, Adidas tennis shoes for Christmas. But in all honesty, it's like you got to have a plan, you got to have your objectives, and you have to pivot as needed and make sure that you have enough flexibility within your system to do that.
I think that was a great way to sum it up.
The only thing I'd add for me, it's risk reward, and being really honest about what the risks and the rewards are. So I guess Q1 2021, when To the Moon and the idea of investing in all of these various coins was super popular on social media. Fernando and I fought like cats and dogs about whether Burger King was going to do something about it. And I was against it because I thought the long-term risk to the brand of being potentially accused of inciting people to make bad investments of $10,000 that they didn't have was too much. And ultimately we didn't do it. And that was a debate we had about what's the reward of being in this moment and being associated with this cultural zeitgeist around To the Moon, and what's the risk to the brand in the long term.
And I think with that, let's say thank you to our incredible panel, Rich, Marisstella, Zoe,